One of the things that makes Adam Smith famous in the world of economics, or his follower, David Ricardo, the two of them, Smith and Ricardo, basically considered the fathers of the modern science of economics, and recognized by Marx, who comes later, a generation later than them, but he recognized also the enormous achievement that they had made. And one of the things that made Adam Smith so famous was the following line in his book, The Wealth of Nations, that the value of anything is, in the end, determined by, I'm now going to use his words, the toil and trouble needed to produce it. For Marx, as one of the many people who marveled at what Smith had written, here was something spectacular. For Marx, it was the linkage of the value of the things that we see produced in the world as linked to, as dependent on, as created by labor. For Marx, it put labor at the center of what economics was all about. Adam Smith and the people who follow him saw something very valuable in that line, but it was different from what Marx thought. For them, the labor theory of value that Smith articulated explained, if you like, resolved a great mystery. The mystery was, why do some things cost a lot of money and others a little? What determines, in short, the prices of things? Marx wasn't interested in the labor theory of value for that kind of analysis. I'm going to exaggerate here, but not by much. Marx wasn't interested in exchange of commodities. He wasn't a small businessman or woman, or a big one either for that matter. The mystery of price, he understood that, but that wasn't what excited him. What excited him was a completely different question for which he developed his version of the labor theory of value. Because there isn't one, there's half a dozen. There's Adam Smith's and David Ricardo's and Karl Marx's and still others. Here's the question Marx asked, which Smith and Ricardo didn't. Marx asked this question. In every society, Marx tells us, there's a core of people who do the work. They use their brains and their muscles to transform nature into finished goods and services. They're the ones who take lumber and make a chair. They're the ones who take wool and make a coat. These people always produce, Marx says, not only enough chairs and coats to take care of themselves, but they always produce more than they themselves consume. That more gets translated into English with the word surplus. And Marx says you can understand society by figuring out who's doing the work and who's getting the surplus. Who can live off the surplus produced by other people that they themselves don't consume. And you will understand an economy if you understand who's the surplus producer, who gets the surplus into his or her hands, and what do those who get the surplus do with it. That's what shapes society. And Marx's labor theory of value develops the analysis that always focuses us on this question of the production and distribution of surplus in a society. Smith and Ricardo didn't understand what surplus was about. And Marx, of course, is a revolutionary. Marx knows that in a slave society, the slaves produce a surplus which the master gets. In a feudal society, the serfs produce a surplus that the lord gets. And as Marx's work shows, in capitalist society, the working class produces a surplus the employers get. And out of that, Marx shapes his critique. If you're interested in criticizing capitalism, you need Marx's labor theory of value. Don't be dissuaded by people who tell you it's not a good thing to understand supply and demand and price. They're right. It's just they're also irrelevant because that was not Marx's objective, to explain prices. And my guess is it isn't yours either. You, like me, are more interested in the big picture of what's going on in a society, who's producing the surplus, who's getting it, and how is the society shaped by that.